It's the weekend. It's the movies. It's new things opening up all over the place and opening up all over the place right here's Michael Snyder. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Alex. Opening up and spilling it all out. In any event, here we are. There's more than a bit of machismo at the movies this weekend, but there's also something fantastical, whimsical, and kind of sweet for the family, and wide releases for some of the most acclaimed movies to troll for awards at the end of this past year. These are movies we've already reviewed. I, Tonya, about Tonya Harding, Phantom Thread, a wonderful Daniel Day-Lewis performance about a British clothing designer in the 50s and his personal angst, and Call Me By Your Name, a love story between a teenager and a young man who has come into his life. But since we've already reviewed them, let's get on to something newer. FYI, couldn't get to Den of Thieves, which opens this weekend, a Jerry Butler movie, presumably an action film that was programmed against the only showing of 12 Strong, which is our lead review. And I didn't even want to bother with Forever My Girl, kind of a tormented romance between a country singer and the love of his life. It looked awful, like worse than Nicholas Sparks awful. So I passed. Anyway, on with what we've got. 12 Strong is going to be kicking it off here. It's a by the numbers, occasionally labored, and short on real character depth war movie. But it's also a decent and involving action film based on the book Horse Soldiers, which is the true story of the first American soldiers, special forces guys, 12 of them, by the way, a dozen, to come into Afghanistan and team with so-called Afghani freedom fighters who opposed the Taliban right after 9/11. It doesn't hurt that Chris Hemsworth, who is better and better with each movie he makes, to my eye, plays the captain of the crew. Michael Shannon, straight from playing the heavy in The Shape of Water, is the resourceful second in command here. And Michael Pena is one of the unit's good-natured mainstays. So, you can kind of relate to these guys. They're personable. They're charismatic. Although I'm sure it's been fictionalized for dramatic purposes here and there, it still has enough verity to impress you with the daring do of this bunch of Americans who were at the forefront of striking back at the fundamentalist, anti-modernity lunatics, the Taliban, who want to keep the Middle East in medieval times and bring down Western civilization. Of course, we know now that things are still bad years later with the rise of ISIL, ISIS, or whatever you want to call it. But that doesn't take away from the intrigue of this snapshot of the war on terror or American intervention or whatever you want to call it. I think 12 Strong is solid stuff, particularly for a January film. Usually the studios dump their lesser efforts, but this thing had a lot of charisma going for it. And again, an interesting story that I didn't really know about. Hostiles is a Western, and it's a Western that tells the story of a legendary Army captain played by Christian Bale, who does not want anything to do with Indians, has killed Indians. Again, this is 1892, but he is ordered to take a dying Cheyenne war chief, played by Wes Studi, and his family back to their tribal home where this guy can die in peace. So you've got a lot of tension to start with. And Christian Bale is really wonderful as this Army captain, and it's gorgeous cinematography, mostly New Mexico. And he gathers a crew together, and this handful of Native Americans that he has to basically repatriate, and he hits the road. On the way, he runs into a young widow played by Rosamund Pike, who has lost her entire family to some rogue Native Americans, and she kind of links up with them. So there's this odyssey, and it plods a little bit, but it's well crafted, well acted, and generally involving. You do wait for the dusty boots to start dropping, if you know what I mean. I mean, this is not going to be a journey where everyone's going to survive. Also, I want to make a point. If you watch the current season of Black Mirror, one of the stars of the first episode, Jesse Plemons, is in this film, as is Adam Beach. It's pretty solid stuff, but again, not great, not terribly staring. I thought 12 Strong was a more exciting film. Let's put it that way. But this has its charms. Okay, moving along to something entirely different. As you may or may not know, I'm a big fan of Studio Ghibli, the Japanese animation house, basically overseen by Hayao Miyazaki. They're starting to kind of dissolve the unit. People are moving on from Studio Ghibli and starting their own companies. And Mary and the Witch's Flower is one of the first films from the Studio Ghibli veteran, in this case, Hiromasa Yonebayashi, the guy who actually directed two of my favorite recent films from Ghibli, When Marnie Was There and The Secret World of Arrietty. Mary and the Witch's Flower, which is based on a book about a young British girl who finds herself caught up in magic, is kind of Spirited Away meets Harry Potter. This is an impressive and charming movie, and I really enjoyed a lot of the visuals. It was very creative, and there are things that will remind you of those earlier movies from Ghibli, particularly Spirited Away. But this had a lot of power to it. A girl discovers flowers in a nearby wood near to where she's been relocated with her great aunt, and the flowers essentially turn a broom into a flying broomstick and bring her to this other world where she is inadvertently enrolled in a college of magic, but she's not supposed to be there. Anyway, this is from, like I said, a children's book called The Little Broomstick, written back in 1971, and I don't know if it's an accurate adaptation, but it was terribly enjoyable. And there's good voice work on the English language version by Kate Winslet, Jim Broadbent, and Ewan Bremner, among others. And I thought it was lovely. I thought it worked. So if you have a chance to see it and it's your cup of tea, I recommend Mary and the Witch's Flower. Let's wrap things up with something you can actually watch on home video if you like, and I really enjoyed it. It's called Small Town Crime, and I got my modern noir fix in a big way with Small Town Crime, which puts one of our greatest and grittiest character actors, John Hawkes, front and center in the role of the lead loser who is forced to try and win with a bad hand. The wiring put upon Hawkes is just right as an alcoholic ex-cop whose guilt at the crucial failures in his life drives him to try and solve the murder of a young woman whose body he finds on the side of the road after being on a bender. He's been drinking himself comatose as usual. He's driving back home erratically, and he sees this body, and it launches him on an investigation. Terrific supporting cast here, including Robert Forster as the grandfather of the dead girl, Octavia Spencer as Hawk's character's adoptive sister, and also Anthony Anderson as that sister's husband. They're not messing around here. Clifton Collins Jr. is another terrific character actor who likes to play slime balls, and he does a great job here. And as a hooker, Katie Lotz of TV's Legends of Tomorrow. So it's highly recommended. Done by a couple brothers, Esham Nelms and Ian Nelms, written and directed by the brothers. And I thought Small Town Crime. It would be criminal if you missed it. If you like this kind of stuff.
When you say it's available online, where is it available?
I think it's a direct TV thing, an AT&T thing. It's from Saban Films, and I think they have a deal to do that kind of streaming stuff. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
What are you watching? What do you got?
Nothing particular. This week we voted for the Screen Actors Guild Awards. It was because the awards are on Sunday, so here's how I voted. Okay.
You got in under the wire. What did you like?
What do you mean got in under the wire? I'd always wait till the last minute.
Okay.
Well, in the category for Best Ensemble, remember all these are acting awards. There's The Big Sick, Get Out, Lady Bird, Mudbound, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Which one do you think I voted for?
Ebbing, Missouri?
No.
Lady Bird?
No.
Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
No. We voted for The Big Sick. I think as an ensemble, it was incomparable. It was wonderful. The only thing is, I'm mad at the awards this year because how do you say Best Ensemble and not include The Shape of Water?
Exactly. I was wondering about that
Yeah,
very odd absence.
because The Shape of Water would have gotten my immediate, but The Big Sick I felt had the best ensemble. Okay, best female actor in a leading role: Judi Dench for Victoria and Abdul, Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand, Three Billboards Outside. Well, the Three Billboards, we'll just call it.
Okay.
Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, and Saoirse
Saoirse.
Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird. I've had her name down for weeks now, but
I know it's Saoirse Ronan, like inertia. Saoirse.
yeah. Anyway, who do you think I voted for?
I'm going to say Sally Hawkins.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mute throughout the film and speaks volumes with her eyes, her gestures, everything about her performance.
Best male actor in a leading role: Timothy Chalamet for Call Me by Your Name, James Franco for The Disaster Artist, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. Who do you think I voted for?
I'm going to just say Gary Oldman.
No.
Daniel Kaluuya?
No.
Wait, I'm starting to run out of actors. You just tell us.
James Franco.
From The Disaster Artist, who is hilarious. By the way, it could be maybe the funniest film of the past year.
Well, I voted for him primarily as a anti-vote against the Me Too movement, because they're trying to push him out on all these things, and quite frankly, I don't think anybody's really come up with any proof that he did anything. Okay, so I voted for him just as a protest vote, but my second vote, if I had two votes, the other vote would have gone for Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel.
Well, it's a good performance. I just was dazzled by Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour.
It's let's do an impression. Let's put makeup on somebody and say, "Ooh, doesn't he really look like him?"
That's the first time.
But I don't think it's a particularly great acting job.
First time in a very long time where the makeup was not yelling "Me Too." By the way.
Oh yes, it did, because it was constantly in flux. It constantly changed.
I don't know. It seemed like his face moved around. That's what it was doing. Anyway, look. Yeah. What's the next one? Or any other
female actor in a supporting role? Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Hong Chow for Downsizing, Holly Hunter for The Big Sick, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, and Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird. Now I got to tell you again, where is Olivia Spencer? For Shape of Water.
Octavia Spencer was very good in Shape of Water.
Yeah. Anyway, who do you think we went for?
Well, for me, it was Allison Janney or Laurie Metcalf. But I said Allison Janney.
I went with Allison Janney. Yeah. Well, Marjorie and I both voted on these together. We have to agree. Male supporting actor Steve Carell, Battle of the Sexes. Didn't even see that. They didn't even send that out. Willem Dafoe, The Florida Project, which we watched about half of and could not stand. Okay.
You're already tipping your hand here, but moving right along.
Woody Harrelson, Three Billboards, Richard Jenkins, Shape of Water, Sam Rockwell. You know who I voted for.
Richard Jenkins.
Of course.
Well, I thought Sam Rockwell and Woody were both terrific too, but Richard Jenkins, he's just so good.
For television, ensemble, The Crown, Game of Thrones, Handmaid's Tale, Stranger Things, and This Is Us. What do you think we voted for?
I'm going to say The Crown.
Nope.
Stranger Things.
Nope.
This Is the Dragons.
This Is Us is who we voted for. Because, again, we're talking about an ensemble, Right, we're saying a bunch of people working together well. Let's see here, for female actress in a drama series: Millie Bobby Brown for Stranger Things, Claire Foy, The Crown, Laura Linney, Ozark, Elizabeth Moss, A Handmaid's Tale, and Robin Wright, House of Cards.
I'm going to say Elizabeth Moss in Handmaid's Tale.
I can't remember who we voted for.
All right, moving right along.
I think it was Elizabeth Moss. I think, but it may have been Claire Foy.
Yeah, well, Claire Foy was the other thought I had, but
yeah.
who she to be able to make that stiff, so human, seeing the inner life and inner workings of Elizabeth Windsor, kind of amazing that she's made that character so compelling.
Yeah. Best performance by a male actor: Jason Bateman for Ozark, Sterling K. Brown, This Is Us, Peter Dinklage, Game of Thrones, David Harbour, Stranger Things, Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul. What do you think?
I think you're going to probably call in Odenkirk, but Sterling Brown is awfully good.
Well, he gets everything, so I just said, fuck it. I want Odenkirk to get that.
There you go.
He deserves it. He's done a great job. Outstanding performance by an ensemble in a comedy series: Blackish, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Glow, The Orange is the New Black, and Veep.
I'd say Veep is probably the best ensemble.
That's what we went for. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a comedy series: Uzo Aduba for Orange is the New Black, Alison Brie for Glow, Jane Fonda for Grace and Frankie, Julia Louis-Dreyfus for Veep, and Lily Tomlin for Grace and Frankie.
Yeah, there's some real duff stuff in that particular category in terms of the actual shows. I'd have to go with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, that's what we did. Male actor in a comedy series: Anthony Anderson in Blackish, Aziz Ansari, Master of None, Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Sean Hayes for Will and Grace. Boy, they have a lot of nominees in this category. William H. Macy for Shameless, and Mark Maron for Glow.
I don't know. You know Mark from the olden days.
I know Mark. That's why I absolutely would not vote for him.
Right. I was going to go there. But I'm also thinking... I'll tell you what. I could kind of abstain from voting for these guys. Aziz Ansari, you might have done one of those screw you anti-Me Too
That's
votes.
exactly what I did.
Oh, well, there you go. Master of None.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not crazy about the show, and I'm not crazy about him, but I do feel he really got a bad deal.
He sort of got railroaded, particularly since he seemed to treat her well. But no, I'm kidding. It's there's two sides to any story, and this one is as confusing as any have ever encountered.
Yeah. So so I voted for Aziz Ansari. I'm sorry. Let's see here. And finally, female actor in a television movie or limited series. This is wonderful. It's between two series. Laura Dern, Big Little Lies, Nicole Kidman, Big Little Lies, Jessica Lange for Feud, Betty and Joan, Susan Sarandon for Feud, Betty and Joan, and Reese Witherspoon for Big Little Lies.
You either abstained or you maybe voted for Jessica.
Went for Susan Sarandon.
Oh, you went for her. Okay.
Yeah. And male actor in a television movie or limited series: Benedict Cumberbatch for Sherlock the Lying Detective, Jeff Daniels, Godless, Robert De Niro, Wizard of Lies, Jeffrey Rush, Genius, Alexander Skarsgård for Big Little Lies. I'm telling you, this one was one of the easiest votes we had to cast.
Cumberbatch?
No.
Wait, hang on a second. Gosh, I'm at a loss again.
Best performance I've seen in his career, and probably the best television performance of the year: Jeff Daniels in Godless.
Right, I've yet to see it.
I can't remember how we voted on stunts.
I don't think anyone's too concerned.
Stunt
actually,
ensemble. I went with what did I go with? We went with Game of Thrones, and for stunt ensemble in a motion picture. I think we went with Wonder Woman. Yeah.
Both good choices. I mean, it's hard to wrangle a dragon, let alone fight Ares.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the whole lineup for this weekend. So everybody see how I did. I'm sure I did terribly this year because I voted my heart. I didn't vote. I'm sure Frances McDormand is going to win, and I'm sure.
I'll bet you Allison Janney wins.
Well, I know she'll win for that, but that's supporting.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I think it'll be Allison Janney. I don't know what's going to happen to James Franco, though. We're going to have to see whether they actually vote him in.
Or will he be jailed for opposing? I don't know. It's a crazy world.
It's getting ridiculous. It's getting absurd. Anyway, so we took a little more time than usual, but people can know that the SAG Awards are on Sunday on TBS and I think TNT at the same time. So,
well, we'll be back next week with more new movies.
Wait a minute, let me roll the theme before you do that.
Sure, I did want to let people know they can check me out on Twitter. Follow me there at Culture Blaster, one word, and check in at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook, and of course, GABNet, our home.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Michael. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, everybody else, you stick around, and there's much more GABNet coming up right now.